Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo. And what are you going to do if your commander gets removed? Is a question that everyone should be asking when they are building their commander decks. And I have covered this topic quite a bit in a few different videos, covering it from different angles, essentially. I'm kind of trying to bring all that together into one video. I made my video last year talking about monolith commanders, which of course this video will be focused on quite a bit as well. And what a monolith commander is a commander that both you need to build your deck around, but also is a commander that you have built your deck around, right? Because obviously there are certain commanders that you can build your deck around and you need that commander to be in play in order for your deck to work. But you could also build the exact same commander, but build the deck in a different way where you don't really need your commander in play, right? And in that case, it is more method two. So method two being, it doesn't really matter if my commander is in play, my deck will still do the thing, but if my commander is in play, my deck will do the thing better because obviously my deck is synergizing with what my commander is doing. As, of course, we've all noticed, the legendary creatures they come out with now are completely focused for the commander format. And for that reason, they are a very focused build around. And that can seem like a good thing, but actually it's kind of a downside as well. When you have a commander like that, even if it's really powerful, what ends up happening is not only are you absolutely going to want to build around exactly what your commander is doing, and in some cases, it could be a very niche strategy that, okay, well, what if your commander's not in play, right? What is your deck doing, right? That's the problem with a lot of these commanders that they're coming out with now that are just so focused and so niche in this particular area is, oh, well, someone just kills your commander a couple of times and now it's like turn 6 or 7 and my commander costs like 9 mana. Now what do I do, right? What is your deck doing if your commander's not in play? That's what every commander player should be thinking about when they are deck building, especially with some of these really powerful commanders that are coming out recently. It might seem great to build around them, but they're more so going to be a target for removal because, of course, they're powerful commanders and people not only will want to get them off the table, but people will also know that if they get them off the table, your deck's probably not going to be doing a whole lot, right? I have told the story before about the first time I ever played against an Obeka deck. And Obeka, for me, the original Obeka, maybe the second one as well, but certainly the original Obeka is a monolith commander that you are absolutely going to want to build around because this, again, this ability is so unique. You're definitely going to want to be building around it. And if your commander's in play, your deck's not going to be doing a whole lot. And the very first time I played against this commander, of course, again, I'm like, okay, well, obviously they've built around that very specific ability of ending the turn. And also it's likely that if I just kill their commander, they're not going to do a whole lot. So they ran their commander out turn 4. I killed it right away. I think I cast a board wipe. They had to wait a couple turns before they played it again. And then I swordsed it, and that was it. That was literally the game for them. Now their commander cost 8 mana, and before they got it out again, the game was over. Just like that. It doesn't feel great to do that to somebody, but what else are you going to do? Just let them do their thing? I guess there is that option as well, but I'm not really a big fan of that. I actually want to play my deck too, and if someone else is going off, it makes my life a lot more difficult. Removal wins games, as I say all the time. And all you guys out there that complain about these powerful commanders, I know they are putting ward on all these commanders too now as well. Still, it can be an option for you if you actually want to slow that person down. And in fact, it completely shut people off a lot of times if you just remove their commander a couple times, right? So my advice to you, if you're fighting against this kind of thing, but also as you're building your deck, you should be thinking about that. If you are building an Obeka Brute Chronologist deck, you should be thinking, what if somebody kills my commander? Do I have backups? Am I going to just be spinning my wheels? Are there things that I can do? For Obeka, there are a couple of backups. For your Lock of the Scorched Trash, there are no backups. And again, that's why I have talked about this commander quite a bit. This is the most monolith commander there is. However, I did come up with a somewhat interesting idea in my 5 builds videos that you could do with this commander where, again, it's how you build your deck as well. It's not necessarily the commander, even though this is very much a monolith commander because, of course, this ability of mana burn essentially is on no other card in the history of the game. So if all I'm going to do is stick a bunch of mana flare effects in my deck, my opponents will just kill my commander. I will be getting nothing out of it, and my opponents will just be taking advantage of the double mana that they're getting. It just becomes a really bad hug deck, right? So you have to prepare for that scenario. So for me, the best option here is an untapping theme, which which is not great in Jund colors necessarily. But of course, the untapping theme works great with your commander's tapping ability, which of course works with the first ability, the mana burn ability. And if someone kills your commander, well, that's okay. I got a bunch of other creatures in my deck that want to be untapped. So I can still do stuff, right? That's what I'm talking about. How screwed are you if someone just kills your commander? Try not to build monolith commander decks. Even if your commander is very much a monolith commander, you can still build it so that you don't need your commander in play. I talked about Arcades the Strategist in a video a few months back in a similar thread where this really is a monolith commander, even though it might not seem like it, because of course you're so focused. That's what I'm talking about with these commanders, that they seem really good because they're so focused in this particular theme and they're giving you a fantastic payoff. But at the same time, because they're so focused in this theme, it makes it so that if your commander is not in play, your deck doesn't do a whole lot. And of course, with Arcades the Strategist, you want to be playing Defender Tribal. So I'm going to stick a bunch of walls in my deck. But guess what? Walls aren't very good in a commander game if your commander isn't in play. So all I have to do is just remove your commander a few times. And now you have a bunch of walls in play that can't attack. So how are you going to win the game, right? There are a few backups for this, just like there's a few backups for Obeka. There are a couple things that will allow you, like Rolling Stones and stuff, that will allow your creatures with Defender to attack. But that's what I'm talking about. This very much is a commander that when your commander's in play, you're going off. You're drawing lots of cards. You can swing with your giant walls that, it's like an 0/7 for 2 mana. So you're swinging in for 7 damage. Life seems great, right? But what happens when someone removes your commander? And in fact, what if someone removes your commander a couple of times, right? And because a lot of these commanders focus on a certain strategy so specifically, what else are you going to do, right? You don't have a lot of options. Let's look at a few newer commanders. I'm going to look at some from Bloomborough here. Balin the Haymaker is the most popular commander from Bloomborough. I'm not surprised in the slightest. I think I had called it the Atraxa for token decks because it's so open-ended. And that's the reason why it's so popular. And that's the reason why it's going to stay popular and also be a really great build round for a lot of years. Red, green, and a white Rabbit Warrior 4/3. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control, just any kind of token. Add 1 mana of any color. Tap 3 untapped tokens you control. Draw a card. Tap 4 untapped tokens you control. Put 3 +1 counters on Balin. It gains trample until end of turn. So this is a great build around as a commander for a couple of reasons. And it's not a monolith commander for all of those reasons. So first of all, it is any token theme. So it's very open-ended. Again, just like Atraxa, where I can do any theme encounters. I can do Planeswalkers, I can do Infect, I can do +1/+1 counters, I can do level counters, I can do all that, right? That's why Atraxa is the most popular commander in the entire format. And the same goes here. I can do Rabbit Tribal, because a lot of those rabbits are tokens typically, right? But I can do food here. I can do treasure token, any kind. The other big advantage here, of course, is, there's 2 advantages. One is I don't need my commander out right away. That's another thing when you're looking at your deck building is, do I have a deck where I need my commander out before I can do anything? And that's the kind of deck that I try to avoid now. I completely try to avoid it. I don't want to be playing a deck where my deck does nothing until my commander's in play. I used to have a deck like that, my Rain deck, where the first thing I want to do in that deck is play my Rain and then get an aura on it. And until I do that, I'm not doing a whole lot. I don't like that strategy, right? And Balin is great because I can just sit here putting tokens in play, right? And you don't want to run this out right away. Why would you want your commander out on turn 3? You don't. It doesn't do anything unless you have tokens in play. That's a good thing. You don't want your commander out on turn 3. What you want to be doing is casting an Awakening Zone and all that kind of stuff, right? You want stuff that's going to be cranking out tokens so that as soon as your commander hits the battlefield, because of course these abilities don't require your commander to do anything else except tap other tokens. So that means I want a bunch of tokens in play, cast my commander, and I know it costs 3, but try to restrain yourself. Then I can just go nuts, start tapping all sorts of stuff that I already have in play, getting the mana, getting the card draw, getting the whatever. And if someone removes my commander in play, even better, I can respond to it by drawing cards and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what makes this a great commander, not a monolith commander. It's just a general token theme here that we're in. So not only is it super open-ended, but is a commander I don't need in play in order for my deck to do stuff. It's almost like a payoff, right? I'm already doing a token theme, whatever that theme might be. My commander is just payoff. It just allows me to tap my tokens for mana. It allows me to draw cards, refill my hand. And yes, I can use my commander to help close out the game as well. So not a monolith commander. You could build it that way, but I recommend that you do not. Do not cast your commander on turn 3. Wait a few turns until you have a bunch of tokens in play before you get this guy on the battlefield. I played against an Arthur Marigold Knight deck recently where, again, you could build this in a very monolith way, but you don't have to, and the guy I was playing against very much did not. So 2 blue, red, white, Mouse Knight, 4/5 with haste. And of course, because it has haste, we know it's going to have an attack trigger. When Arthur Marigold Knight and at least one other creature attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library, you may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order, return the creature to owner's hand at the end of combat. So already we have a commander that is basically not allowing itself to be a monolith commander because, of course, you need another creature in play already. I already need another creature in play in order for this guy to do anything. So again, running him out right away, although it's not hard to get a creature onto the battlefield before turn 4 or 5, but I already need another creature in play. If you don't have another creature in play that can attack, of course, you absolutely do not want to cast your commander. Why would you? It doesn't do anything. It's just going to be sitting there a target for your opponents. So I got to make sure I already have a creature in play that I can also attack with. It's pretty good value because I have that creature come into play. If it happens to have an ETB, I get that, and I also get it returned to hand, so it's card advantage, right? It's basically taking a creature and putting it into my hand at the very worst. Is even more so getting away from the monolith build, which is an ETB deck. They just did a Jeskai ETB deck. They did lots of blinking, lots of great ETB creatures because, of course, like I just said, that creature comes into play. It's tapped and attacking, but of course, because it entered the battlefield, you get the ETB effect, and then it returns to hand so that you can do it again, right? That's a great way to build this. And I was playing against that person, killed their commander, and guess what? They were trucking along just fine. I don't think they cast their commander for the rest of the game, and they were trucking along just fine after I had killed their commander. So yes, my commander works with what I'm doing in my deck. This is my favorite way, I think, to build a deck now. My commander is working with what I'm doing. This commander works in the ETB theme. But of course, because ETB has lots of great creatures, has lots of great support, I can blink my creatures, all of that, I can actually just run my deck perfectly fine without my commander at all. Yes, my commander is part of the deck. It doesn't need to be completely ignored. I don't love the Method 3 deck where I don't need to cast my commander at all. I just need the colors. That's why my commander is there, like a lot of 5-color decks. No, I actually do want my commander and I want to be using it, but if it dies, that's okay. And if it dies a couple times, I'm fine. I can win a game without my commander at all, right? That's another thing you should be asking yourself. How well can my deck close out a game if I never have my commander? Again, maybe someone is... there are the scenarios where someone mind slavers you and then sacrifices your commander and leaves it in the graveyard or something, right? Or exiles it and leaves it in exile. You have to be prepared for those scenarios as well. It does happen from time to time. How well can your deck survive if you don't have your commander at all? Igra, Eater of All, is another one. Really powerful commander, really popular in the format already. I'm not surprised at all. However, what's your deck doing if this isn't in play? 3 black and a green elemental cat 6/6. Ward, sacrifice a food. It's a pretty good ward. Other creatures are food artifacts in addition to other types. And whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2+1/+1 counters on Igra, Eater of All. So it's kind of funny that this commander almost hoses itself. If it didn't have that food ability there, this would be a amazing ward, obviously, because your opponents would, it's basically hexproof. Your opponents would not be able to target it unless they had food lying around that they could sacrifice, right? But because your commander is turning your creatures into food, you're now enabling them to just very easily sacrifice a creature in order to kill your commander. I mean, I know it seems like an advantage to have that, oh, well, they've sacrificed a creature, which is a food, so my commander gets 2+1/+1 counters on it. Yeah, but it's dead. This commander actually, even though it is really powerful, it's great at killing your opponent's creatures, of course, because it's turning them all into artifacts. That I see as the biggest advantage here. But I mean, it is obviously very much a target. This is just removal magnet on a stick, in my opinion. What is your deck doing outside of this? I will throw out a strategy. I think a lot of people might be building this deck in the monolith way, where I need my commander on the battlefield in order for it to do something. Looking at the cards that people are putting in the deck, I would say that is likely the case. You're likely building this as a monolith deck. Let me throw out an idea that isn't in the monolith theme. Again, just like with Arthur, where I'm doing a theme that my commander synergizes with, where I don't need it on the battlefield, my deck will actually work if I don't. And that theme is one I have revisited quite a bit, which is just the Destroy Artifact theme, which of course always works good in the commander format. I can just put a creep and corrosion, or anything that destroys all artifacts, or a collector Ophi, stuff that hates on artifacts as well. Of course, if you have any of that stuff in play with your commander, it's great. But if you have that stuff in play with not your commander, it's great as well. And then on top of that, you put in the stuff that is turning stuff into artifacts like liquid metal torque. So rather than the hating on food theme or any sort of food theme here, which is kind of specific with what your commander is doing, I would more so do the I'm turning my opponent's stuff into artifacts so that I can then destroy it, that theme, because your commander fits with that theme. And if your commander's not on the battlefield, I can still turn my opponent's Elishnorn into an artifact with my liquid metal coating and then Nature's Claim It, right? That scenario all still works. It all still synergizes really well. If my commander's on the battlefield, now that Elishnorn is already an artifact and I don't need the liquid metal coating, right? It just allows me to skip a step. So it makes my life a little easier, but it synergizes with what everything is doing in my deck. And if my commander's not on the battlefield, my deck will still do stuff and I will still take advantage of it. And I can still draw cards off my Viridian Revel, and I can still gain life off my Fangren Marauder, right? All of that. I don't know if people are already doing that in their Igra deck. They should be, definitely, regardless of the direction you're going, you should be playing those cards. But again, that's a way to build your deck in a non-monolith way, right? That's the advice that I'm trying to give here in this video. Avoid those monolith commanders is the advice I always give. But also, again, even if you want to build an Obeka deck or a Urlock deck or an Igra deck or whatever, there is a way to do it so that you're not needing your commander on the battlefield, right? That's the advice I'm giving, and that's the question I'm asking you, right? You look at your decks and to ask yourself, what does my deck do if my commander gets killed a few times? Or if, just imagine my commander gets exiled and I can't get it out of exile. What's my deck going to do? It's just not fun. If you have a commander that is, first of all, a removal magnet, and then once it gets removed a couple of times, you're just spinning your wheels and not doing anything. Is that fun? I'm trying to give advice so people can avoid that situation, right? So try to not build your deck in a monolith way. Again, you can take a commander that isn't necessarily a monolith commander. I've done it before, and I'll build it in a monolith way so that I need my commander in play in order to do anything. Nah, I don't like that. It's not a great game plan, and it's not a lot of fun if your commander, even if your commander incidentally gets removed a couple times, right? Someone just ends up casting a board wipe right after you cast your commander for the first time. Boy, that sucks. Now you got to wait a couple more turns before you can do anything. Don't love it. Try to avoid it. I guarantee you'll have more fun in a commander game. That is it for today, though, and thanks for tuning in.